Hello my friends, it's Erica with Not Your Average EDC, and today we are going to look at the Hogue Gen 2 Deka with polymer scales in MAGNACUT. Just got this in for testing. I picked it up because it was pretty fucking cheap, and I've been very curious about this knife, especially because you guys have been pushing me to try one for like a year, I feel like. And it's supposed to be pretty reminiscent of the bug out, and a lot of people say it's better, so I picked one up when they dropped at gpknives.com. I think I paid $127, and it's in MAGNACUT, all that good stuff. Let's talk about the first impressions, because I don't know if I am the only one feeling like this, but I am nervous that nobody's gonna really like this. So let's just talk about the knife a little bit. It's a normal sized EDC pocket knife. It's like 7.5 inches total length, I think. We've got many similarities between the Benchmade bug out and the Hogue Deka. Blade shape is a little different on the Deka. We've got a Wharncliffe, and it's kind of like a compound grind. If you can see, from here forward is just different than right here. Polymer scales with some, texturing here. A deep carry pocket clip. They call this an able lock, but it's the same fucking thing as an axis lock, like literally the same thing. Maybe the springs are a hair thicker, but it is the same exact concept. Thumb studs, all that good stuff. So this is supposed to be, in theory, a better bug out at a better value, per se. Lots of people talk about the Deka. I know a lot of people have the G10 one and the Damascus one. This one, I picked it up in the plastic scales because it was cheaper, and you guys know I love FRN. So, I heard that, these were maybe better than the bug out at a better value. The blade shape is cooler. Hogue may or may not have better quality control, all this stuff. And this is my first experience with a Hogue, like owning one. I've handled them, I've seen them, I've played around with them, but this is my first time owning a Hogue knife, okay? So, let's talk about the things that I noticed when I got here. Centering is perfect. Let's see if we can get that. So centering is absolutely perfect. The execution looks pretty damn good in terms of like quality. Like everything is, tidy and finished. Not seeing anything out of place really. No blade play up and down or side to side at all. Came with some lubrication in the pivot area, which I like because some knives come just completely dry and you instantly have to lube them up. This one came with a little bit of oil in there, which I like to see. Coating seems nice and even. The edge bevel, like the cutting edge, is closer to even than like the Deka, or not the Deka, this is the fucking Deka, the Delica from yesterday, right? So I made a video on my K390 Delica, and like one bevel is like literally twice the size of the other one. This one isn't completely even, but it's much more even, than it could be. So decently even grind lines, very sharp, I like that. We've got jimping. It's a pretty basic knife. Couple of standoffs in the back, very similar to the Benchmade bug out. Standoffs, little spools there. A short, deep carry clip, kind of like the bug out, right? Like it's decent. It's decent. The bad news is it feels like it is actually a disposable knife. Now, you guys know I love plastic knives. I love FRN, Grivery, whatever you want to call it. I love the plasticky knives. I think they're a great way to enter the use your shit realm. When you have a $450 titanium knife, it could be harder to convince yourself to use it compared to something like this, that's $127, easily replaceable, plastic, lightweight, kind of cheap feeling. This is just a knife that you want to use, right? There's no reason to safe queen this because there's literally no reason. Like, just don't even try to give me one because they're not there. Like, this is so easily replaceable. Just, it wants to be used. So I love plasticky knives. This one is like almost too much though. So people say that the bug out feels cheap. Totally get it. I mean, I personally don't feel like that, but people say that the bug out feels cheap, and the sharp edges, they don't like them, and it's too lightweight, and you can flex the scales, etc., etc. This feels 10 times cheaper to me than this. That's saying something. So I think there are a number of things that make the Deka feel cheaper than the bug out. We'll go over them. So on both of these, we have like tiny liners that only go down to here on the bug out, and approximately same exact spot on the Deka, right? So your balance point is going to be a little off on either knife because you've got liner and blade from approximately here forward, and then from there back you've got nothing other than plastic and a pocket clip on both blades. So your balance point is not bad, but it's a little off just because we're a little heavier in this direction, right? And that's on both of them. But one of the reasons that the Deka to me feels way cheaper is like there's no texturing on this knife. So we have like machining in this like cool diamond shape and stuff, but it's not really providing much grip. It's very slick, and then in here is so sharp, and like there's not really any contours. Like, it's pretty just flat and sharp on this. And I think that's one of the first things that you feel is like, it doesn't hurt. You're not feeling it in a bad way, but it's noticeable. It's like, oh, wow, this is very hollow feeling. It's very hollow feeling, and it's a little sharp all throughout here, right? Now on the bug out, you could say it's sharp as well. However, the same area on the bug out is a little more contoured. So like this is just a little more rounded on this knife. And then also you have the diamond knurling and this kind of like blasted matte finish within the plastic. And it's just more prominent on the bug out than the Deka. Like the Deka, you can see it is not like a straight soft finish. It has kind of like that matte blast, but it's much more fine than on the bug out. So it's just very slick. It's a very slick knife, and it just feels more plasticky. The other huge thing I noticed right off the bat is I don't even know if this pocket clip is real. There's no, I mean, it is so loose. It's so thin and loose. Like, it needs more retention. I'm nervous that this would like pop out of your pocket. It's just so, there's nothing there. On mine, it's barely touching on this side. It's like barely touching the scales. I mean, there's just not very much retention there at all. I don't like the mini pocket clip on the bug out, but I will say it's stiffer on the bug out than on the Deka. Like, noticeably stiffer. Now this one is shorter, so that might help. It's a hair shorter, but it's just so noticeable on the Deka that it's just like flimsy. It's just flimsy, guys. It's very, I mean, I can even push the pocket clip like this and get it to like flex and bend. Like I feel like I could just kind of crush this clip almost. So I'm nervous that people aren't gonna like at least the polymer version. Also, For some reason, I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, nor do I notice everything. But, like, I didn't realize that this was, like, a compound grind until I got it. And I, like, saw the pictures, heard people talking about it. But, like, until I actually got it, I didn't realize, like, oh, this section is different than this section. And it's a compound grind, which technically when you're sharpening, you should treat this as its own little blade and this as its own little blade. Kind of like a tanto. Like, I should sharpen this area first and then this one. They're two different things. They don't blend. It's a compound grind. This area is thinner than this one. I don't understand why that was necessary. I mean, just for me, I don't need that. I don't need all the fancy shit. Like, I'd rather just have a fucking Wharncliffe, like, even a flat grind, full flat grind Wharncliffe. The whole compound thing, I'm just gonna get rid of it. Like, when I sharpen this, I'm just gonna blend this whole area and just, it'll have a little bit of a belly in this section, and I'm just gonna do one straight edge and blend the whole thing because I don't want to deal with the compound crap. Especially because, at least on mine, it's not really even a full compound grind. The only compound area of this is the actual, flat here. But then when you get down to the edge, it's, like, basically blended anyway. Like, whoever ground this edge bevel, it's not really it's not a true compound grind. So I'll just blend it even more. It'll be fine. It'll look cool. It'll look like a compound, but I'm just gonna have, like, a normal edge. The thumb studs, I'm not so sure about those either. They're sharp and cheap feeling. I actually really like Benchmade's thumb studs. People say that they're too small and they hate them. But I actually really like the stock Benchmade studs. They're fine for me. I like that they're, you know, they just have like a little pyramid pattern machined at the top, just like little layers up to the very top. This one is kind of like this, zombie apocalypse sign thing with sharp edges, and it's just like, it's not bad, but it's not necessarily good either. It just feels cheap and a little sharp for me. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have been kind of messing around with this knife, and like the front of my thumb is just a little torn up there from the thumb stud from flicking it. It's just sharp and it just like kind of tears your thumb open. So I don't know how many people are actually going to enjoy at least the polymer version. Now, am I going to test this, use it, whatever? Yes, of course. I don't really mind about the plasticky stuff and the cheap feeling stuff. I beat the shit out of my knives anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I know how many of you think, understandably, and please try to check one out before buying one. How about, let's just say that, like, if you get a chance, if you have a knife store near you that carries them, or a friend that has one, or someone that would, like, be willing to loan you one to try before you buy it, please fucking do that, for the love of God, because I don't know how many people are actually going to enjoy at least the polymer version of the Deka. I know that the MAGNACUT is tempting, and people jumped right on it, and they sold out instantly at most places. I know that, like, River's Edge and GP Knives sold out instantly on most of the MAGNACUT Dekas, because people just want to try MAGNACUT, and I believe that they are marketing this as 61 to 63 for a heat treat, which is not terrible. It's actually decent. So, like, I know a whole bunch of people jumped on this, and a whole bunch of people are waiting for the second round of drops, but either try the G10 or Damascus one, or try out the plastic one before you actually purchase it. I'm really not picky about my knives. I love cheap feeling shit. Like, I'm literally trying to get rid of a Sage one in Maximate right now because it feels too nice for me, which sounds so stupid, and I make no sense. Like, I just live on my own little planet, and I don't make any sense to most people. But, like, yeah, that Sage one just, like, feels too nice to me, and it's too, like, nice and perfect, and I just, like, I don't need any more of those types of knives. I have enough of them. I'm really into, like, the plastic knives right now that I can just beat the crap out of. I don't have to worry about when I drop them. I don't have to worry about, like, these sound like little things to people, but I'm serious. This is like my real life. Number one, I drop things all the time. Like, I drop everything. And like the other day I dropped my Para 3 with G10 scales on the concrete floor at work, and like the corner of it just crunched in. Like that doesn't really happen with these plasticky knives. Like I've dropped my FRN knives. Nothing happens. They just kind of bounce. They're so light and plasticky. They just kind of bounce away and you go pick it up and you're good to go. But you know, G10 and titanium will take a beating if you drop them on concrete. I've unfortunately had my knives run over before. You know, G10 surprisingly can be more sensitive to those types of things than the plastic. The plastic just kind of like, you know, it sucks in and takes the beating, then bloop, pops back out, it's good to go. Even sliding my knives across like metal tables or something, or across the concrete floor. Like there have been many times where I'm working on a project with somebody at work at numerous different jobs, and they need a knife and they don't have one on them, and you know, we are rushing around to get something done, and I just slide my knife over to them, like whether it's on a big metal table across to them or on the concrete floor or anything. Like, could I get up and hand it to them? Of course. But, you know, being able to not worry about tossing a knife over to someone or sliding it over, that to me is just something that I think about, and it might not make sense to anybody other than me, but, you know, just not having to worry about my knife, not having to think twice about it, really. I like that. So these cheaper feeling plasticky knives that can just take a beating more than some G10 or some micarta or some titanium, I just like that. So, you know, I really do like knives like this. This one is just like literally almost pushing it as to being like almost too far into the cheap world. But great price point for my first Hogue. It seems well built, you know, it's decent. One other thing I'll mention that people pay attention to that I don't really care about, but I know people pay attention to it, is packaging and stuff like that. The box that this came in, I should have brought it out. The box that it came in is, it looks outdated and old and cheap. It's like, it almost looks like you picked it up at a hardware store. So that's interesting. It came in a nice little zippered pouch. That is a nice touch. So on the inside of the box, this is in a plastic sheath within a zippered black like nylon pouch that is embroidered on the top Hogue. So that's fantastic. That's a great touch. But the box itself looks like something that you would pick up at the hardware store down the street that's been in business for 150 years. And then even the papers within are it's like that see-through, cheap, thin paper. The print looks outdated, like, and none of it is, it just looks like that. So I think, and that's probably what makes this so cheap. When you pinch your pennies on marketing and packaging and stuff, and you're able to kind of like direct your money to the actual product instead of marketing, it can save you money, you know, like that's, I'm not knocking Hogue for what they're doing. I just know that some people pay attention to things like that. I'm just letting you know that's what it looks like, right? It's just, these are all things that get to the human mind and will convince us that something is not as good if it comes in a cheap package and looks cheap and feels cheap and has a cheap box and everything is just cheap feeling. It gets in our head and it makes us think, you know, that we might be doubtful of something like this, especially when you have Chris Reeve knives come in like the most beautiful little square box, wrapped up in a cloth with these beautiful tools. And, you know, many knives are coming in like nice little, even wooden boxes sometimes. Yeah, it can just play tricks on our heads. That's all. So, like I said, these are all observations. This is not a review at all. It's literally first impressions and just letting you guys know what I thought when I opened this up. And I have used it a little bit. It's doing fantastic. It's a very thin, slicey blade, which I'm really excited about. And that blade shape is really cool. These Wharncliffe style blades are just really neat. They're really neat to use. Let's see. Anything else we can talk about? Maybe ergonomics real quick. Ergo's not my favorite on this, just because that first choil right there is, Bro, you could sit this on a fucking, like, kielbasa and it would fit. Like, that's just a huge choil. That's huge. I think, like, when I hold this... Gotcha. No, but for real, when I hold this, my middle finger is on, like, literally right on that nubbin right there. So when I hold this, and yeah, I have kind of small hands, but still, like, when I hold this, my middle finger is resting on that knob right there. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but it's not the worst. I can back my hand up a little bit and kind of force it to be how it's supposed to be. But, like, you see that space right there? It's just that's a huge choil. That's a huge area. And I kind of wish that they just made it straight. Like, that's one of the most beautiful things about the bug out is there's nothing really stopping you. You can put your hand anywhere on this, and it's not going to stop you per se, because there's no real ergonomics in this area. You just have a little bit of like a palm swell, little belly area, but nowhere telling your index finger to go here and then the rest go there. That's not like that on the bug out, which I really appreciate about it. The Deka, it's specifically saying, I want you to put your index finger here, the rest I want to fall back here, and that's how you should hold it, and it doesn't work for my hand. Again, I don't really mind that my middle finger is on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if people start getting these in hand and say, you know what, it's a nice knife, but the ergonomics of the Deka don't work for my hand. I would not be surprised if I start hearing that. Man, we're on 21 minutes. At least putting it into the back of your hand to close it, it tucks right in. The contour back here, that definitely tucks right into your into your hand where it's supposed to go to get a good purchase on, you know, opening and closing it. That's nice. That tucks right in there. But the rest of the ergonomics are not the best. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm talking too much. That's the first impressions on the Hogue Deka. Go use your shit. Even if it feels super cheap, really go use your shit. If you're at Blade Show this weekend, have a blast, guys. I love you all. I will see you on the next video. Adios.